Hey everyone, this is Mac here at SalesDads and just kind of wrapping up my day and wanted to take a couple of minutes to kind of summarize a little bit about the episode that you're about to watch. Today I'm joined by my good friend Luke Welty. Luke has been working in the oil fracking industry now for, I believe, over 12 years. And Luke currently works for an organization called Liberty Oilfield Services, where he actually started working in a yard in Colorado. And upon, starting his career with them, he was eventually promoted to a crew leader and now has served with Liberty now for over 10 years. 3 of those last years have been spent as a service leader where he oversees multiple different crew leaders on different rotations. During his time at Liberty, that company has actually grown from a small private organization with 4 fracking crews that has now grown all the way into a publicly traded company averaging over 1.2 billion quarterly in revenue. So for Luke, being able to work for the second largest fracking company in the U.S. behind Halliburton, coming in, from nowhere and joining that organization when that is not, his background, that's not what he went to school for. It's been an incredible ride for him, and he loves what he does. And I think you're going to see that in our conversation today. But I think the other thing that sticks out about Luke in this conversation that you're going to learn to appreciate is the value that he has for his wife, Sarah. They've been married now for just over 11 years, and they have 2 sons. And, it's obvious that Luke tries to prioritize both his relationship with his wife, his 2 boys, and making sure that, he's giving himself to them fully. And Luke and Sarah are very blessed. They've worked their tails off. They live on their own 10-acre farm in Fort Lupton, Colorado. And Sarah is actually a very talented horse trainer. She trains wild Mustangs, has a pretty successful business built around that. They currently take care of over 10 horses. They have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 25 odd some chickens. And as life takes each turn, Luke seems to be excited for where each turn will take him and his family. So definitely leave us your comments and let us think about what we want to be doing in the future with your comments. Really excited to kind of share this episode with you because I think it's a special one that really talks about the ability to prioritize your job, but your ability to still maintain a good relationship with your spouse and your children and be that provider, but also be that emotional support and beacon that our families look to us to be as fathers. Thanks for being here. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Mac here at SalesDads. And as previously mentioned, I'm joined with my good friend Luke Welty, who, once again, I've had the pleasure of knowing since I was in college. And Luke is a good friend. He's someone that really tends to put everything he has behind something that he's doing. And one of the things I enjoy about Luke and excited about being able to talk about this evening is just his commitment overall to what he's doing in the moment. So Luke is the type of person that if he says he's going to do something, he's going to see it all the way through. And I think we're going to get in a little bit more detail about how he can apply that to both his work life and his family life. Even when he works a job that requires him to be away from home for a longer period of time than what most folks are used to. So Luke, dude, it's exciting to have you here, man. And thanks for taking the time. You were telling me earlier that you're at a library right now because the internet just wasn't going to work at home, right?
Yep. Yeah. We kind of live out in the country and internet's a little spotty at best. So yeah, I kind of got to make do with what I can get.
I mean, frankly, I think you have the right setup because is it Fort Lupton or am I mispronouncing that?
Yeah, Fort Lupton. Yeah.
So yep. Fort Lupton, Colorado, and then man, you're blessed. You've got your ranch. Your wife trains Mustangs, and she's an incredible Mustang trainer, and y'all raise horses. And didn't you say you have 25 chickens? Is that right?
Yeah, we got like 25 chickens. My wife's way more interesting than me, man. She's she's busy all the time training horses. She trains Mustangs from complete wild out in the wilderness or whatever, just completely wild. Never interacted with people before, and then she trains them. Like we have our Mustang Dylan. I could put a newborn on him, and he's great. So yeah, she's loving it. Using the property, and then I'm still busy working in the oil field. That's what I've been doing the last 12, 13 years of my life.
So you, if I remember correctly, when you graduated a little bit ahead of me, you took, you kind of did some stuff locally, and then you ended up moving out to Colorado. And dude, I'm not trying to be rude if I say this incorrectly, but is it essentially like you were working on a dude ranch to some degree, right?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, we'd have people that would come out and horseback ride with us, and it was kind of like a retreat, like camp conference center kind of thing.
Hmm.
We did rock climbing. I was kind of the
Oh,
all
nice.
around guy, like leading rock climbing, doing. I mean, geez, I was cooking, doing dishes, housekeeping. I mean, I was doing it all. So, and then she was doing the horses, and then we got put together pickaxing trenches, and I threw a cow pie at her, and she threw one back, and I knew it was love. So
Knew it was love. Threw a little bit of crap on her, and she
yeah,
went with
yeah,
it. So hey, if she can take it being thrown at her,
yeah,
there you go. It's a sign from God.
oh
So
yeah,
that's good, man. And so y'all kind of met there, and then if I remember correctly, she went back and finished up school,
yep.
and then eventually you made your way into fracking. So tell us a little bit about that, because I know you had kind of been looking for multiple options, and you and I were talking previously. You grew up in a middle class background similar to me, and then this fracking opportunity came available, and frankly, man, one of the things I have so much respect for you is a lot of people aren't willing to kind of take a job pathway that they didn't grow up around, right? Like you jumped into a blue collar field and have built an incredible career around it. So
Oh, yeah.
what was it that kind of motivated you to take that leap?
Oh man, yes, I graduated in 2009. I went out, I did this thing at the camp and ranch center, but I mean that kind of came to an end, multiple different reasons, but and I didn't have anything after that. I had to go home and live with my parents for a little while, and I was like, just as a man, I can't do this. Like I have got to get it, got to get my feet under me. I've got to be a man, So
Yeah.
I was looking for anything. I spent about 4 months, 4 to 6 months, somewhere in there, looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I was, man, I couldn't find anything. I got on Craigslist. That's how I found this job. they they
Yep.
put it on Craigslist, and they said, "Do you want to try the oil field?" And I said, "Psh, at this point, yeah, I'll do whatever." So um, jumped into the oil field and learned how to grow up quick. Man, every day getting your ass handed to you. It was rough at the start there for
So when
sure.
you jump straight in your green hat, so for folks that aren't familiar with, certain blue collar, lines of work, there's being green is a term that's used for a new guy that has to learn the ropes, kind of earn his keep, learn the
Yeah.
role, put up with some of the shit that, the older guys don't want to deal with. So, I mean,
Oh yeah.
kind of in terms of that, I mean, you're hitting the face with it, right? They're testing you to see if you can,
Oh yeah.
hold your own, but you were swinging like a 9 pound hammer at one point, like right
Yep.
out of the gate.
8 pound hammers all day long. Yeah, it
Oh
was.
my gosh.
Yeah, you learn real quick how not to get your feelings hurt because if you if you don't have a thick skin, man, you'll get run off quick. But yeah, it was a hard learning experience for me, just from where I've been in life. But um, yeah, I mean, it gets in you, and honestly, I don't know what else I'd do at this point in my life. I, I enjoy it. I love it, and it gets to be a part of you. I don't know even how to describe it to somebody. It's just something you gotta experience. It's just, yeah, there's nothing like it.
Once it's there, it's an itch that never goes away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I've
Yeah,
heard that. Where we go pheasant hunting here, and again, we're 31 days away, brother.
can't
Good
wait.
for us. Can't wait. But Mike up there at the lodge, they did a lot of stuff with your current company. If you remember, we were
Yeah,
talking about that last year, and um, man, it's just something that he's talked about really influenced him, and what he does now. Mike's been a career lineman, and we're gonna bring him on the podcast here while we're up there this year. But you know, he's talked in the past to me about just being able to drive past something that he's built, a massive power line trail, and being able to say, "Hey, I built that," and that feeling of just like I want to keep doing that never leaves him. He tells me that frequently. So
oh yeah, yeah. Just being able to drive by and be like, I fracked that pad. I fracked that pad.
yeah,
I mean, it's cool to be able to show your kids too, and they can't get out of the truck when I take them into work, but I've taken them into work sometimes and just driven around.
yeah.
They just think it's so cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to show two little boys.
Yeah, get them excited for it and start them
Yeah.
early, right? So,
Yeah.
what when you started fracking, right? When you got your green hat, you're learning the ropes, earning your keep. If you were a 2 week on, 1 week off guy, so you're 7 days a week, 14 days straight work for 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
you get that 1 week off. So, how quickly? Because you eventually moved up to crew leader, which is like as a field manager. So how quickly from getting your green hat and starting with your first organization did you work up to becoming a crew leader?
So my first crew lead job, it was about 2.5 years in. Um, yeah, that was at a time in North Dakota, man. It was the wild, wild west out there. There were murders and people like they had. I remember at Walmart, they wouldn't even stock the shelves in Williston, North Dakota. They would just roll pallets out, and you just grab whatever off of a pallet. They had these little plastic huts out in the parking lot. People would pay like $300 a night and just had a bed in it, and they just sleep in that. Like it
300 a
was
night?
wild up there. And so there was a lot of turnover too. So lasting 2.5 years in North Dakota was kind of unheard of. Like I just straight up outlasted everybody. So I'm just dumb. I don't know, but yeah, I just stayed in it. It paid off for me up there, but getting married and everything right at the end of that, I really wanted to get out of that kind of a schedule, or at least out of, because we were living in Colorado at the time. So I wanted to come down here. There's an oil field down here. So I was trying anything to get down here in Colorado. So
Yeah. So when y'all got married at the kind of the tail end of your first dip into
yeah.
fracking, which was in North Dakota. So what's that like, being a new husband, trying to manage that relationship with your bride? How's that, just jumping
I
into it? And
mean,
obviously she's dealing with it too.
oh man, it was, I mean, I'm, I'm glad we still had the pitter patter and warm feelings towards each other, because there's no way it would have. I mean,
Yeah.
I was working, there was, so for like 6 months straight up there, I was working legit 20-hour days. I would come home or get back to the hotel. I would put my meal in the microwave while I took a shower and then talk to my wife while I was eating my meal. 15 minutes, and that was it. Like, and then she, for a while there, she came up and lived with my grandma and my uncle in North Dakota just to be closer, which I mean was a huge sacrifice on her part.
Hmm.
Um, but man, she sacrificed a ton. Um, I'm not going to say it was easy. I mean, there's been several times that our marriage has been on the ropes, quite frankly, and it's because of my job, and it's tough. Um, I've looked for other things sometimes. I can't really, I haven't had luck when I have, but yeah, it was really trying on our marriage. 2 and 2 or 2 and 1 schedule, 2 and 2, um, which I went to a few years ago, was a little better, and then now I'm a weekday only schedule, which is a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, just in terms of family time. But yeah, man, that 2 and 1, it was, especially being in North Dakota, it was, I don't know
Hell.
how she put up with it.
Well, man, Megan and I have certainly had our struggles, and definitely, you know I've we've had our disagreements, and we've had our moments where we've had to work to keep the focus on one another. And that I think anyone that tries to sell this idea on Instagram and social media, or the brag board as I like to call it,
Yeah.
just this bullshit of like, hey, everything's perfect. No, it's not, man. Everything's is a grind. And I'm reminded constantly, it's like, if you want a good relationship, you've got to create the good relationship, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for me, man, in my particular role, to get lost in it, because like you, even though I'm not necessarily a physically demanding job, I'm mentally exhausted every single night. And working night hours, I can see my wife, for about 45 minutes in the morning, and maybe 10 minutes before she falls asleep at night, right? So
Yeah.
my time with my wife is on the weekend, and my kids. And so it's, for me, where I found out where I was kind of falling short personally was I wasn't putting priority on my wife and kids on the weekends, right? So I would be dragging ass. I'd be, just exhausted, not wanting to engage. And I finally kind of made a realization or had a realization that, the weekend time, that's my wife and kids time with me. And, during the week, if I, don't have other responsibilities, if I want to take some time and just sit on my ass, then fine. But when I'm fully available to my kids, I have to be fully available to my kids and my wife. And when I finally had that realization, you would think we would all think of that immediately. But when I realized how to be more prioritizing to prioritize my time a little bit better and focus on my family when they're more available, my relationship really improved. Right.
Mhm.
And we all go through it, man. I mean, it's like you have a unique schedule. I mean, your wife has a very unique schedule. I'm assuming with her training regimen, with all the horses she trains, and you've got two boys, which hats off, dude. I mean, two boys alone. I know y'all are just busy as hell. But what was it like, kind of getting into that management role, and then were you in a management role when you had your first child, or did you get there after?
Yeah, so I was in a management role when I had my first kid, but I was still on a 2-and-1 schedule. But I was in Colorado,
Hmm.
and man, yeah, it was a really tough time for me and my wife in terms of our relationship. Just working as many hours as I was, um, and yeah, I mean, having our first kid, definitely made me really, I guess, want to try to slow down or just be more present, I guess,
Yeah.
there at the house. And then just kind of made, I guess, both of us realize like, hey, like maybe, maybe time together, maybe time with the kid. Like, let's get together on this. Let's prioritize this. And yeah, we went through some marriage counseling. I mean, um, worked on our relationship, tried to work on communication, was a big thing. Just making sure that we're working together in everything, no matter what the situation comes up, or let's talk it through. And then, yeah, I mean, now, with my 5-day a week schedule, it's nice. We come together in the evenings. We, go through our day, have some good conversation, relax with each other. It's gotten to a lot healthier place. But I mean, yeah, just in that tough schedule, um, it was just a lot of work. Just trying to um, make each other a priority, make our kids a priority. Yeah, my firstborn kid, he was a tough kid too, man. He's up. He didn't sleep a night for the first 18 months. It was we
Whoa.
really went a little insane. Like we we were hallucinating. I mean, it was crazy. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Getting an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep a night. Yeah, I mean, thank God I've got a hardworking wife who's man, she's stubborn as the day is long. She will, and she's dedicated to our marriage, and we're both willing to put in the work. Is really what it comes down to.
Man, I'm blessed with the same, man. My
Yep.
wife is stubborn in the fact that she's dedicated to our marriage no matter what. And
Yep.
I'm very, very fortunate. And I sometimes it's easy to overlook that. And it's
Yep.
something I try not to. And
Yep.
it's a special thing. What for you, how do you try to prioritize your time? How do you track your time, and how do you try to prioritize your time, both family first, obviously that's the whole focus of what we talk about here, but how do you prioritize your family, and then when it comes to your work life and your work schedule, how do you keep yourself focused so you can perform at a high level there?
Yeah. So I mean, my day to day, I'm huge on. I have to. I am a routine guy. If I like to have a routine every day. I mean, my wife makes fun of me sometimes too. Because a lot of times I'll just eat the same thing for every meal every day. Just I mean, I love routine. So I mean, typically I'll wake up 4 a.m. and I want to hit the gym in the morning. Like that's just like my me time. Like
Yep.
that just gets my mind right for the day. I'll go in there. Usually spend about an hour and a half, 2 hours there. Come back home. Help my wife getting the kids ready for school. getting them on their way. And then I start my day after the kids head off to school. I immediately, will head out to location and get with my guys. And right now I'm like kind of overseeing the crew leads. So my day to day is more just making sure that things on location are going the way that they should. So I my work every day is pretty flexible, just based on what's happening.
Right.
If we're having an issue here or there. I mean, usually my days are kind of open ended in terms of work, but um, yeah. So I mean, just man, there's all kinds of things that come up or whatever, and then um, yeah, and then at the end of my workday, I usually come home, have some dinner with, try to have dinner with the family, unless it's been a long day.
Yeah.
I can't make it home, but and then I try to make it intentional to sit down with my wife, go through the day, go through the next day, um, and typically just ask her, like how are you feeling today? Like how are you like that's something that I try to and there's always things you can do better on, but that's something I can try to I try to ask her and be intentional about just getting a read on where she's at mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Um, yeah, just open it up and try to have good conversation. Sometimes we'll watch a TV show, sometimes not. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is just sitting down with her and seeing where she's at. Um, yeah, and then having a little bit of time with the kids too. I mean, before they go off to bed. But we try and send our kids to bed early, man, like before 8 p.m. So at least we get an hour or two together. Because usually I'm in bed by 9. But yeah, that way we just get some time together. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, we put our kids to bed at 9, 10 at night. I'm like, man, I couldn't, like, I want to be with my wife. I don't, that's the first most important relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a huge thing for us too. We're pretty intentional about that as well.
Yeah. Megan and I try to be, especially on the weekends. That's, when I get my most time, obviously, we try to get the kids in bed by 8. And
Yep.
then, we'll, on Saturday night, we'll both stay up late. She's normally asleep by, 10 at the latest during the work week, but we'll basically stay up till midnight on Saturday nights, just trying to, get as much time together as possible. So
Yeah.
I get that. And, it's funny you mentioned prioritizing and really getting that time. And I saw something the other day I was reading, and it was talking about how, I forget, it was somewhere online, but this individual was talking about how where she felt the difference in the connection with her husband was when he would sit down, if she was having a moment, right? If she was kind of venting, she was stressed about something, what made her feel more secure, and maybe secure is the wrong word, but made the situation better, is her husband would ask, do you want me to help you, or do you just want me to listen and be an ear? Right.
Yep.
And it's like that help question is like, do you need a coach to help you coach through this, right, as your teammate? Or do you just need me to shut the hell up and let you vent and get it all out? Right. And,
Yep.
and don't say anything. Right. And for me, sometimes in those moments where I catch myself is like, I'm the coach. I'm like, well, you got to do A and B and because I don't know, like I was trying to help. Right. That's my natural reaction, is try to help or fix. And that really struck me, and that's something I'm trying to work on. And I only read it like 4 days ago, and in those last 4 days, I've really been trying to work on that. So in that intentional time that we have together, it's like if she brings something up, it's like, hey, what do I need to be here, right? So that's cool that y'all are doing that. What for you guys, like, how do y'all set aside time for you? Like you mentioned working out, right? Like, and you've always been a really fit guy. You could freaking take on a 2-ton truck, I think. But at the end of the day, like, you get that 4 a.m. workout in. I typically get a workout in the morning, and then I get a run or a walk in the afternoons. Aside from your workout, how else do you make time for yourself? Not your bride, not your kids, but how do you make time for yourself to kind of get that mental reset?
Well, so real quick, going back to the listening thing. So with me, I have always heard that like you just want to listen to women, and like they don't necessarily want your help. I actually have the opposite problem. to where I will sit and listen to my wife, and then she'll actually be looking for me to offer some advice, and I won't offer advice. And then she'll have to finally be like, "You got anything?" Like, and then I'll say something, and she's like, "Oh, well, that's really good advice. Thank you for finally sharing." So it's so like it's kind of funny because yeah, I've always heard that too, but then it's always a balance, man. It's like sometimes they genuinely do um, want that, but it's a fine line. You got to be able to read it. And
Well, I
along
think
with
that
most men probably suck at reading it.
exactly. I think you took the words out of my mouth. I think it goes to show that we as men will never be able to read exactly what our wives or our, spouses, are thinking. So for all of you that may be listening, treat us please as if we're completely ignorant and tell us exactly what's on your mind. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, and then if you do want advice, just ask for it. And then I'll give her some, and then it's great. But anyway, going back to the personal time. So yeah, gym in the morning is a huge thing for me. Um, I've discovered that if I wake up with my kids, because they just wake up 100,000 miles an hour, they're screaming, fighting, kicking I mean, they're crazy in the morning. Like they just wake up, wound up, ready to go. So that time for me, just with quiet and then go to the gym and eat my breakfast in peace is huge. I love hiking more than anything else in the world, and that's something I whenever I'm getting I don't know real bogged down and whatever, my wife will tell me go take a hike, go up to the mountains, and that's a huge thing for me. I love hiking 14ers. Still working on all of them. I think I'm at like 21.
How many are there in Colorado?
There's 53.
53. So for those of you that may not know, hiking the Colorado 14ers is a big deal. These are mountains in Colorado that are over 14,000 square feet. And I know some folks only try to do summer summits. Some folks try to do both summer and winter summits. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. So, but you're 21. I mean, you're almost halfway there, man.
Yeah. So I love, man, just being out. I'm an introverted guy. I love to just silence oh man, I love it. Yeah. But, so that's a huge thing for me. And then, the hunting trip every year, that's another one,
Yep.
I look forward to that. I mean, ever since we did it last year, but, those are the biggest things for me. I was telling my wife the other day, I'm just super excited for when my kids are a little older and I can take them out hiking, camping, and then eventually when they're older and they can go hunting with us too. They're coming. I can't wait.
Man, that's going to be our trip, man. It's going to be, you, Taylor, Trip, myself, any other guys that we have joined, like, and our kids, brother. Like that's what I'm praying this turns into long term, is that we just make it this whole, annual kind of adventure. So do you do any reading? Do you read at all in your free time?
Oh man, I would love, I should. I have been working on, just some biographies about the presidents, and then I try and do some, I don't know, some motivational reading sometimes. But I mean, it's a struggle for sure. I don't read nearly as much as I could or should. But it's just, it's one of those things. It's got to get in the day, and a lot of times I just don't get it in.
I hear you, brother. I mean, it's like anything. It costs time to do, but it's definitely worth it when you have the time. Reason I ask is, and I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. When you were in college, did you ever read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius at all? I mean, did you ever look into any work into Stoicism at all?
No, I don't believe I ever read that one. No.
It's just, you've always been a very stoic and just kind of, centered person to me. And it's just, I've always kind of, perhaps it's wrong of me to say this, but I've always just kind of like pinged you as being this guy that's just very, and I've always wondered in the last couple of years, like, I wonder if Luke's ever kind of, gone down the Stoicism kind of rabbit hole, just because you always hold yourself in the moment very calm and collected. And frankly, man, like that's something that if more people could be that way, I feel like we'd have a much more balanced society. People get worked up over the smallest things, but and the reason I'm bringing this up is in your role as a manager, you deal with a lot of stuff, and I won't go into too many details because I don't know your comfort level. But you've recently dealt with a fairly large situation at your office that led to a couple of things having to change. But how do you handle adversity? With the guys that you're responsible for, how do you handle adversity in those moments, and how do you kind of prepare yourself for those moments as they come?
Yeah. So, well, first touching on the whole stoicism thing, I actually this these two Bible verses for me are just like kind of what I aspire to live to. I actually have them tattooed on my arm, but First Thessalonians 4:11 and 12, it says, "Make it your aim." Well, hold on, let me get a different translation here because this one is a little goofy. It says, "Make it your goal to live a quiet life, minding your own business and working with your hands, just as we instructed you before. Then the people who are not believers will respect the way you live, and you will not need to depend on others." Um,
Love that.
I don't know. That's like something that has always been huge for me, just in my personal life, what I aspire to live to. I'm a very independent person. I like to just get it done on my own if I can do it. And I don't know. Yeah, those ever since I read those, I've just like, man, that hits home for me.
Mm.
But sorry, what was your other question? I'm sorry.
How do you kind of prepare yourself, like kind of bringing that stoicism question, right? Like your how you maintain kind of control in the moment so well.
Oh
How
yeah,
that has to be able to influence your abilities as a manager, right? Because you do deal with some rather unique situations from time to time.
right. So I mean, man, yeah, just well, making a um, mental break, I guess, from the situation, just telling myself, like, just backing away from it. Um, whatever feelings uh, arise, just trying to, I don't know, just, I mean, like a few episodes you talked about just putting up a wall. That's kind of what
Hmm.
I do. Um, I just put up a wall between myself and the situation, and then it's just business. So like, if I
Hmm.
have to handle something major, I just look, here's what happened, here's what you did, and here's the consequence, and that's it. I mean, I have nothing more to say. A lot of people, it's hard uh, doing that because uh, just in general, I'm not. Um, Sometimes I'm not the warmest person. So guys, the guys that I work with, it's funny, man. Like grown men getting their feelings hurt over like you walking. Like if I have something on, I'm a very single track minded person. If I have
Hmm.
something on my mind, like I'll blow by you and not say anything, and it's not because I'm mad at you or whatever. But how many grown men have come to me? Are you mad at me? I'm like, oh
Yep.
my god, really?
Yep.
But yeah. So I mean, doing that, a huge kind of statement that stuck with me and then that I put on my guys is whatever you tolerate, you promote. And
Hmm.
your opinion matters. So if you see something that one of your guys is doing, or if that you aren't 100% good with, or you have just the smallest problem with it, you better say something. Otherwise, that's what you are actively promoting.
It's gonna
And if you
fester.
actively promote that, the um, just how quickly it will corrode a crew, it will corrode the job, it will just tear everything apart. Um, to be excellent in everything, um, you have to know, what you're willing to tolerate, and if you have the slightest problem with something that's going on, you better deal with it right now. Otherwise, it will tear everything apart. And I've learned that lesson the hard way so many times. Giving somebody um, maybe some undeserved slack on something thinking, oh, this will mean something to them. This will actually help, their mindset or whatever. No, no. If you don't enforce that with guys, at least in my job, I have found that it will come back to bite you with a vengeance. Like you deal with it and you deal with it now. It's yeah, that's been a huge thing, and just being on top of it as soon as you see something.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would love to see more organizations do is actually enforce their, enforce their employment policies, and I've seen too many people just given a long leash, and that leash just seems to have an infinite run to it, and problems continue. I mean, I've been unfortunately witness to, individuals that, you know, create large problems. They become the ones that are promoted because I don't know for what reasons, but even though upper management might know that these individuals create problems, they almost promote them out of fear, right? Like as
Yeah,
if we don't take this person, it'll cause a, or promote this person will cause a bigger issue. And for me, it's, trim the fat. I would love to see more organizations be, you know, quick to make a move. And I guess with modern society and, I'm not afraid to say, to, share my beliefs here. I'm not a woke guy at all. Don't believe in it at all. Um, just this kind of dealing with everybody's emotions. I mean, at the end of the day, both as a father and a husband and as an employee, I have three different roles, right? And at work, this is about a business. And if my team can't perform, or if somebody's not rising to the standard, and we've given them the tools and the training necessary to be successful, and they're not utilizing it, why are we keeping this person around? Because
right.
they're going to start jibber jabbering, and it's going to fester to other members of the organization, and it's going to lead to greater issues. And I mean, I agree with you, man. I think more managers, mid-level guys, more senior managers, they need to be empowered by the C-suite executives to step in and make moves and decisions to eliminate potential problems before they grow to be bigger. And I just don't see enough organizations doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big thing too. Again, I was having a conversation with my wife the other day. Just talking about like when you manage people, it's funny because like you'll like I was saying, you'll give someone slack on something, and they actually respect you less.
Yep.
People with a caveat, most normal people, uh, if you put pressure on them, and I've certainly fallen. If you put pressure on me, I will respond to that so well because I would say most normal people, um, they're not actually looking in the moment. They might be looking for sympathy or whatever, but actually, like in the long run, putting a little bit of more pressure on them, it even helps morale. Like I can't even
Hmm.
explain why or how, but it helps morale. Like it's the weirdest thing. You would think that being a little bit hard on somebody would just break them down, but it actually builds them up, and it kind of like
Hmm.
makes them take more pride. And I see this in myself too, and I don't know how or why it works. It must be some part of the human condition or whatever. I don't know, but um, and that's what I found too, man. Like you think you're doing somebody a favor by cutting them slack, but you're actually not. Like they would
Yeah.
respond far better if you just identified the issue in them, pointed it out to them, and then push them to get past that. And then it just builds so much more work ethic, character,
Hmm.
morale, everything in
Well, I
them and in your crew.
I think you just answered your question right there as to why it stimulates better morale, because you stimulated growth. That
Yeah.
was personal growth that you forced this person to acquire by making them rise to the occasion and fix their problem, fix the
Yeah.
mistake, or fix their performance. And personally speaking, when I've been held to a higher standard, or I call it tough love, like my old man used to give me, and I see myself now performing at a better level, like I become more confident and gaining more confidence, not in an arrogant manner, but gaining more confidence makes me happier, right? And that
Hmm.
always improved me. So I totally understand where you're coming from on that, because I think you're teaching, how to how to overcome, an adverse situation, and find new ability that someone may have not believed they had before.
And going bigger picture with this whole woke culture crap, you have a bunch of people that have never experienced um, somebody pushing them. Everybody is just, oh, just be empathetic, be sympathetic. Just try to understand where they're at and meet them there, and don't ever ruffle any feathers with them. And then, but at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that you know the truth about yourself.
Hmm.
You know, so big picture part, on a global or a United States scale, it's like, well, no wonder we're having a problem with so much depression and stuff, because you know the truth about yourself. If you've never pushed yourself, if you've never been pushed, and you know that you're not even coming close to achieving what you can achieve,
Hmm.
you can blame it on whatever, but you know that about yourself, and you're going to feel terrible about yourself. And I feel like so many people are just afraid to push or identify things in each other. It's just the whole iron sharpens iron thing. If
Uh-huh.
we just have a bunch of, you know, softies running around not saying anything to each other, nobody's being pushed. Everybody's just kind of sitting in their crap. And
Yep.
it just, no wonder you're depressed, It's like,
Hey man, I think you're spot on. I mean, I being that I basically have my days to myself, I can tell you the difference in my own mental headspace when I get off my ass and I get outside and I apply myself. I do something physical. I handle business around the house, whether it be replacing some landscape that died in a late freeze, right? Or if I'm, doing something in the house to do some home improvement, try to do home value, increase, kind of types of projects, versus watching Netflix and doing nothing but sit there and just, be a slug. And that mental headspace difference, that stimulation is, I mean, I'll admit it, I get depressed when I sit at home and do nothing, right? Like on my birthday, I had an overwhelming case of depression that came out of nowhere on my birthday, not because I was turning 36. I don't know what the hell it was. Getting older does not bother me, right?
right,
Dying does not bother me. I know where I'm going, right?
right.
So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, I'm excited as I get older because I get to do, I think, and hopefully, Lord willing, more cool stuff. But um, for whatever reason, I just became super depressed, and I don't know why. And I think it was I was just sitting at home all day, and I didn't get to do anything until late that afternoon when my kids got home, and I don't know. And the next day though, I was outside, I was active, I was doing all this stuff, and I was happy. And I've never felt as depressed as I was in that moment for that day. I mean, it was overwhelming. And I'm not a person that really struggles with mental health or depression or anything like that. I have family members that do, so I'm not trying to make light of it. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
But that single difference of getting up off my ass, getting active, and getting out and interacting with people, massive change for me in that. And I agree with you, man. It's if you allow someone to sit, if you don't try to stimulate somebody, one day is a difference maker. And I'm stealing that because I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast several years ago, still do. And
Yeah.
he had a gentleman by the name of Pat McNamara, that's a self-defense firearms instructor, um, former tier 1 unit guy. And guys over 50 plus years old, just ripped like a freaking, collegiate linebacker. And, he's dealing with, my understanding from what I've seen about him on social media, he's dealing with some just constant pain that he, deals with. And his choice is either I can just let that pain happen, or I can sit and work out consistently and make the best of the day. And what he was saying on the Joe Rogan podcast is someone just needs one good day, and that one good day could completely change their outlook in the rest of their life. And I get it, because that one day difference is a difference, right? And it's like I went from personally feeling like just crap and to feeling like I could take on the world. And it's
Yeah.
just that, not not being willing to settle in the moment, finding new opportunities to try to grow, finding new ways to kind of stimulate your mind,
Mhm.
you're going to help yourself. And I think as men, we have to hold each other accountable to that, because I don't think enough of us are. Like
I mean, that's like one of my biggest frustrations with like the church right now
Mhm.
is there's nobody at the church willing to call me on my crap. And I need that. And I
Yep.
know that I need that. And, as men, that's one of the biggest things that we can do for each other and for our families, raising sons. I mean, I can be kind of hard on my sons, but it's because I want them to be leaders. I want them
Yep.
to be strong. I want them to be protectors. I want them to be providers.
Mhm.
That's no small responsibility, and
Mm.
and especially with the world that they're coming into too. It's like, man,
Hell of a lot harder than what we had.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's a huge thing that I feel like missing today, and in the church is one of my biggest frustrations. Is like, where are the men? Like, come on.
I'll be honest with you, dude. I have no problem admitting this. Where Megan and I have been struggling in our marriage is I have not led the church search as well as I should have. I've been kind of unsatisfied with kind of what I've found in certain churches, and I've been hesitant to engage, and I want to engage in a community, with my family, but I've been very hesitant based upon some of the stuff I've read and heard some certain church leaders saying, and it's a problem, and some of that's my own issues that I have to get over, because the value of having that, that relationship with, God, not just in amongst our household, but with other believers, that I just don't think that's equal personally.
Yeah,
And I need to be taking a better charge of leading that. But I agree with you. I think there are many aspects that are lacking from men as believers. Um, it's funny. It's so funny we're talking about this, because, when Taylor and I were talking, Taylor, and which unfortunately we have to re-record because of a glitch, but Taylor brought up this idea of you have your own personal board, right? And Taylor essentially has a group of men that he would consider like his board of advisors. So if he's having that tough situation, or if he needs to seek advice or opinion, he's got a trusted group of guys that he'll pick up the phone to. And it's 3 to 5 people total, right?
yeah,
Having that in your life is imperative, and something that came out of that conversation too. And I'm saying this for anybody listening. Sometimes we're in my own personal life where I've struggled is not, I reach a milestone. What I don't realize in the moment's a milestone, and I don't have the answer. And I'm like, man, I feel like a bad father. And when Taylor brought up this idea of having your own personal board, it really stuck with me, because, hey, man, like, I haven't reached this part of fatherhood before, right? So like, if I'm having a moment where, I'm struggling to get something or make a decision, or struggling to kind of, illustrate how to do something properly for one of my kids, but I haven't been there before, why am I getting mad at myself? It's like, you use your board, reach out to those guys that may be a little bit older than you and have been through this before, and see how they've perhaps handled those certain situations, but guys that you trust,
right,
right? Not some acquaintance,
right.
right? Guys that if they picked up the phone and called you and said, "Hey brother, I need you, get your ass here," you're going to pick up and do it. That's who's on your board. So
Yeah.
do you, I mean, how do you kind of look at that, right? Like, how do you look at trying to find those men in your life and identifying those guys?
Yeah, I mean, man, that's been a struggle for me. It's something that I want, something that I need, that I know I need. But finding somebody dependable, that is hard nosed and will shoot you straight. That it's hard to find those people, and it's just like, honestly, like, to find somebody consistent like that. I haven't really, you know um, found that, and maybe that's, I don't know, put a want out or something. I don't know, but no, I don't. It's hard, and the guys at work don't necessarily share the same beliefs as me. So it's yeah, it's just, like I said. I mean, the place that I would like to find that would be like a church, but I just don't find it in churches. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I don't know maybe I just need to take leadership in that and start start something, you know, with some other men, you know.
Yeah. Well,
But
frankly, I mean, if I'm being honest, I hope that's what this turns into, right?
yeah,
I would love to see. I'm not doing this for clout. I'm not doing this for anything other than bring awareness to the fact that as fathers, we're all going through something. No one's got it perfectly figured out. I mean, I know someone. I've never met the gentleman, but I know someone I went to high school with that husband is in very large financial capital firm, does extremely well. He's going through something, right? And it's everybody, doesn't matter how successful you are, we're all going through something, and we all need that. We all kind of need that sounding board of men that will step up and call you on your BS, right?
hmm
But that can also, instead of break you down, but also give you helpfully, not like rudely, right? But give you, help and guidance on what you can choose, options you might have. And that's valuable. And I'd love to see this grow into that over a period of time, to where, guys that want to have a deeper part of this conversation, maybe we can create a community and stimulate that conversation. I'd love
yeah,
for that to happen.
yeah.
So,
I mean, and yeah, this is a great start. I think it's something that everybody needs in their life. I just need to figure out how to make it happen in mine. It's I definitely identify that need, but
well, I
you
mean,
know,
I think too, like we're all in different stages, right? So it's, you're trying, you and I are kind of in a similar stage, it sounds like, and don't let me put words in your mouth, brother, but it's like you're looking for that kind of more, mature mental connection with other men, because
yep,
you need your men's group, right?
yeah,
I'm needing that, but I'm also needing to get my family. I'm needing to step up to the bar and really take a better leadership role, plugging my family back into a particular church, right?
hmm
Um, but I think there's there's always going to be things that are influencing our decisions, and what is, you're not going to find a perfect answer. I'm not going to find the perfect church. You're not going to find the perfect group of guys ever. So what is the priority for you? What
yeah,
are the main attributes you're looking for in being able to find you know the answers you're looking for? I think that's where I'm trying to start,
hmm
slowly. I'm not going to do it overnight, but
yeah,
slowly. But what, for you, I want to circle back for something. I have two daughters and I just had a son.
yeah,
You mentioned you're going to be hard on your boys,
yeah,
and that made me think to myself, I'm going to be harder on my son than I am my girls, because
yeah,
I do think that there's a, not that that men have a greater responsibility. Women have their own significant responsibilities. I'm not trying to say one is greater than the other,
mhm,
but I do think that level of protection that we as men, I would say most of us feel called to provide. I think it does take a little bit of a harder upbringing, so our children do have the right expectations of life and what's ahead of them. It's not a blue sky every day, right?
yeah.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be a glass half empty kind of guy, but setting real expectations for our kids and how to be present in those moments instead of running from those moments. So how are you slowly doing that as your boys start to get a little bit older?
So one of the big things, again, recent conversations I've been having with my wife, um, that and this all like a lot of my introspection and self thought comes during my workouts. Again, if you aren't working out, like I cannot recommend it enough. You think for like get internal thoughts down, like it's a great time. But I was thinking as I was beating my brains out on the stairmaster the other day.
Oh, you're
I
brave.
was like, yeah, I'm killing my legs. But I was like, man, like I really need to be intentional with my boys about milestones, and this is something at work too, that I think adds pride in people. Um, like if they, like at work, if somebody hits a milestone or has taken a step forward, like a huge thing is recognizing that. So
Yeah.
with my boys, that's something huge. I want to take um, that I've been thinking of is like I want to take a time out. I was talking with my wife about when my son turns 8 next year, I want to give him his first pocket knife, and
Nice.
like this is going to be something huge for him, just to impress upon him, like, hey, like you're becoming a man, and you're expected to provide, take care of, defend, um, and that, like you were saying, that's not to say that you're any better than a woman or anything, but I believe that that's your role as a man is in a family and everything. Like you're responsible for your family, and so just teach them responsibility in intentional ways. Milestones being a big thing. Again, with the whole "what do you tolerate, you promote." If your kid is leaving trash around the house, or just
Hmm.
just little things that, yeah, I could go pick that wrapper up or whatever, but that's like been, just small things, like, hey, like, day to day, every day, you need to make sure that you're cleaning up after yourself, you're responsible for yourself. Like, these are huge things, and that's not to say that we can't have fun and we wrestle and we have a great time, but when it comes down to business, like, you need to do things, and we're going to start doing some chores for them. um it's been something we've been talking about, and getting some of those things. I mean, living where we do, it's a great opportunity for them as well. Take care
Yeah.
of the chickens, picking eggs, feeding horses. um it's just the little things throughout the day that I'm trying to impress upon them. Like, every little thing matters. um it's all important, and this is just, part of being a man. You got to step up in everything.
Well, it all adds up, right?
Yeah,
Because if they don't go through, and this is a personal opinion, but if you don't go through growth stages, right, and you don't learn how you're going to react mentally, if you don't learn how you're going to react physically in certain situations, then you're not going to be able to handle yourself and during times of real adversity, right?
yeah,
And I mean, we started. My oldest is only 4. She now makes the table. And her little sister is starting to help. Her little sister's still a little short, so
yeah,
a little short to help there, but we're doing what we can. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, man. Like, kids need that responsibility, and one of the things, and this just came up in my head just now. You talked about giving a pocket knife. One of the things that I'm trying to teach my kids is the importance of time, and I talk about it all the time. It's just something that's very valuable and important to me, and that came from my father having me in his mid 40s. My dad's birthday would be tomorrow. He would have been 80. And so the value of time and what we have on earth together is important to me, but also prioritizing it and teaching your kids, hey, if you do this now, if you pick up as you go, you have more time to go do the things, the fun things that you really want to be doing. That time frame doesn't get cut short. And I think you're doing a great job of starting that now, because they're going to learn that. And I don't think I don't want to speak for other people, but I can tell you in my job, how I interact with people on a daily basis. The amount of kids today that I interact with, they don't know time management. They don't see the repercussions of, putting something off and procrastinating to the last second because no one's enforcing anything, right?
yeah,
And that behavior's become accepted. And from my kids, that concerns me from when they're in our stage of life where you and I currently are.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's huge. I mean, yeah, I joke around with people at work. I'm like, man, I can't wait till my boys grow up because they're gonna eat all these other kids alive. Like, I was like, that's my goal, though, man. Like, raising my kids, I want them to be, you know, just willing to rise
Capable.
to the challenge in anything.
Yeah, man.
Take everything head on.
Well, I think one other thing that I'm very focused on is trying to provide my kids with an idea of finances, and we haven't started that yet, and I think my kids are too young for that. But I something I feel very strongly about is at a probably by the time that my oldest is 8, like your son is, maybe 9, starting to try to implement, financial management, getting them to understand, you know, the the idea of saving, getting them to understand how money works, because money's working less and less for us, by the way. For
Oh
anyone
yeah,
that's not paying attention right now, our money is going a hell of a lot further, or excuse me, is not going any further. It's going a hell of a lot less in terms of what it can do for us. But one of the things that I find so in my, previous career in education is so many kids not understanding the value of money, how to prioritize it, save it, make it work for them. And they have no respect for it. They'll have empty bank accounts. Like
I,
I know people that are in their late 20s that are defaulting on their bank account because they don't have the value. They think you can just put a credit card on it and go. And I don't ever want my kids to be in a position of despair and desperation because they didn't know how to effectively, hold their money budget, and make it work for them. And I think the earlier that we start that, the better off our kids will be. And we're not doing it in schools.
oh,
I think I had econ in high school. It was my econ was my second semester of my senior year. That's it. And everything else I learned either from my parents or on my own. And my parents did a pretty good job of teaching me that stuff. But
yeah,
I don't think most families are. And seeing what we're seeing now, I think the value of learning how to, budget wisely, learn the value of a dollar and what it can and can't do for you, going
mhm.
without, teaching your kids how to go without at an early age. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be more important than ever before.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's been times my kids have they've broken something, and the next words out of my son's mouth are, "Oh, it's okay, Dad. I'll get us a new one." I'm like, "Wrong answer." like, like, nope. And
Yep.
so, yeah. I mean, man, yeah, the financial end of things. I mean, I haven't put a ton of thought into that. Next time I'm on the stairmaster, I'll start hammering that one out. But no, yeah, I mean that's another huge thing. It's just, man, the world is coming at our kids from all angles. It's like,
hmm
I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna put everything I got into it. It's yeah, I want my kids to succeed. I don't want them to be one of these failure to launch scenarios.
Yep.
Um, you know, I I I had a tough time launching after college, and that was what it was, but it was miserable. It was,
Yeah.
and I want them to have a bad taste in their mouth if they can't, like go out and succeed. Like I want them to have that drive, you know.
Yeah. No, something there. You said it earlier, like you felt as a man, it was your responsibility to get out, get out of your parents' place and do your own thing. And I did. So when I first took my first job, I was, living in Athens, Georgia for a year and, ended up moving back to Nashville when I got hired at the next position. And I lived with my parents for a year. And that was just like, I mean, it wasn't soul crushing by any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to be dramatic about it, but I was like, man. But at the time, like it made more sense to stack as much money as I could, and I bought a house. Right, like I bought a house after a year, and that was a huge help. So I think there is, a balance of like, hey, like to a certain point, but like I don't want my kids being in my house at 32,
No.
34. I'm not going to let them for the record, right? And dude, I know
Yeah.
people that are living with their parents and they're 36 and 37,
Yeah.
right? And they don't have drug problems. They're just living at home. And it's,
Yeah.
well, what, what's missing, right? And that could take us down another rabbit hole for 3 hours, but it's setting expectation. I think you're doing a great job, just what you're telling. I mean, obviously I'm not there every day, man. And nor am I some expert. I mean, you've got more
No.
experience as a father than I do. But I think you're doing an incredible job, man, because you're setting expectations now to where it's not like they feel like they have to catch up later. And I want to circle back on something that you said too. It's, being able to handle adversity. One of the things that I struggled with initially in my career field was taking feedback. And I think that was, and I'm not knocking my father, love him very much, but there was almost a perfectionist expectation in my
Mhm.
household as a kid. And that made me fearful of failing. And I think embracing failure, teaching your kids to, not be okay with failing, but to learn from it and grow from it. And
Yeah.
I think those and creating situations where they're probably going to fail. I think those are great situations to put your children through at an early age so when those bigger moments do occur in life and they happen to everybody, they can handle it. And it's not this, just kind of mentally crushing experience where they shut down and they stop trying, right?
Yeah.
So
And it's like kind of like that whole concept of your worst day is your worst day. Like, like if your worst day hasn't been that bad, then if something gets a little bit worse than that, then you don't know how to handle it. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
pushing yourself into scenarios that maybe you're a little bit over your head,
yeah,
but you got to figure it out, and you got to, and that's something big for our kids, for our boys especially.
yeah.
Make them figure it out.
Make
Yeah.
them figure it out because we're not going to be here forever,
Yep.
and it's God love them. I'm going to give them every ounce of love and encouragement I can. But at the end of the day, they've got to be prepared for me to not be there one day, and
Yep.
that's my biggest fear is leaving my kids unprepared. That is my
Yeah.
biggest fear. So
Yeah, and it goes kind of like we were talking earlier with the whole confidence thing. It's going to build a ton of confidence in them too if they know, hey, I got into this whatever, whatever scenario, and I used what I knew and I figured it out and I got out of there and I was good.
exactly,
It's like,
exactly.
perfect, good job,
Yep.
man.
And you grew from it, right?
Yeah,
It's like, hey, I can do this. I didn't think I could. It's that to me in those moments, it's so stimulating. Whether it's working on a car, whether it's a physical, thing that I didn't think I had the ability to handle, and I did. Like that. Those moments I think are just so encouraging. But changing topics here in our last couple of minutes here. What are you and Sarah working on? What's kind of like your goal right now as a family? Like what's kind of the next thing that you've targeted and you're in pursuit of?
ooh, oh man, that's a good question. I mean, um, hmm, as a whole family, I think, um, hmm.
You can even say Disneyland if that's okay.
No, it's funny though. We've been last year in March. We try to go on a vacation every year, and last year in March we had both just had it with the snow and the cold, and we're like, that's it. From now on, we're doing break vacation. So I am looking forward to that. Uh, no, I mean, man, me and my wife are both just very day to day people. Like, I mean, in terms of down the road, in terms of a big goal for down the road, I honestly have a hard time coming up with anything. It's just like, man, just every day, um, just tackling whatever we got is like the biggest thing we focus on. Um, and with our kids, it's just like day to day, working together, making
Yeah,
the best of it. Me and my wife work together great. Um, Yeah, I mean, in terms of where we want to be, like honestly, with our property, with what my wife's doing right now, like this is her dream.
yeah,
Um, Being where we're at right now, like we are super blessed where we're at. Um, my job can be frustrating sometimes. The past 5 weeks, I was in Wyoming and Houston, and it's been a grind. Um, but like overall, like we're in a good spot right now. I guess just sustaining that, watching our boys grow up, not watching them grow up, but helping them to grow up.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah, just trying to equip them for what's coming their way. Um,
I think you
that's
just said
yeah,
something that really hit home with me too. One of the things where as a father and as a husband, sometimes I feel like I'm struggling is Megan and I have our own goals career wise and all that, right?
mhm,
But then, we sometimes I'm like, man, we need a bigger house. And we do. Like arguably either we're gonna have to expand this house or move, and I'm not gonna move at 8% interest rates. Just forget it.
no,
Um,
I
but
don't
at the
know
same
how
time,
people
it's
are
I
doing
get
it.
I get so mentally caught up in that. I'm like, man, I'm letting my family down. At the same time, it's like I think you just said something perfect. It's like I'm blessed to be where I am. I'm blessed to have what I have, and like if I could spend more time focusing on that and not what we think we need, I think that alone it would just be I need to remind myself of that because I think that'll be a big win for me mentally as a father and as a husband. Yeah, thank you for saying that because that's definitely something that I need to be working on and appreciating for where I am.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have imagined, being where we're at right now. We've definitely been blessed for sure.
Wow.
Um, at the same time, working in the oil field, I'll be the first to tell you I've worked my ass off for everything that we've gotten. Like I, and so I'm very proud of that. Like I'm very
You should
proud
be.
that, I don't like my Bible verses that I try to live by. Like I don't need anything else from others. Like I try to, take care of my family and be 100% self-reliant. And you know, um, who knows? Maybe that'll all come crashing down, and or I'll, you know, I do need other people. I'm not saying that I don't need anything from anybody else, but in terms of providing for my family, I definitely like take a lot of pride in being able to do that. Like that's a huge goal for me
I get
that
it,
I've been
man.
able to accomplish. So
Well, I mean, I get totally what you're saying. You take a lot of pride in being that provider for your family, but then, as we were talking about earlier, like we still need that community as men, right? So
right,
like, I totally get what you're saying there. And no, man, I think it's admirable. I think it's honorable. You not relying on people. It's because I think too many folks today do. So man, that's why I've always kind of looked up to you, and it's why I have the greatest amount of respect for you, just because of how you apply yourself. It's just you're a caring person. You would I honestly believe give the shirt off your back to help somebody, but at the end of the day, you're not going to look for a handout. Unless there was an absolute disaster where you absolutely needed something, and you're not looking for other people to take care of you, your family. You are constantly stepping up to the responsibility as a father and as a husband. And I think more men need to be encouraged to do so. And at the risk of ruffling some feathers, you know, put through what modern society says that we need to be, and put that bullshit aside, and stand on the front. Take the heat for our families and provide, and accept
yeah,
nothing less than that. And if more men can do it, who knows? We might be in a better place 6 months from now.
yeah, yeah, that's huge. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I've loved getting to kind of catch back up with you over the last few years and watch your family grow and watch you kind of take this podcast on and seek that growth and push yourself. And man, it's been yeah, it's just been awesome reconnecting with you, and even the amount we can't we're not in each other's daily lives, but just in the amount that we do talk, you've even challenged me a few times in our phone conversation. So I just want to say I appreciate that from you. Just in the brief times that we have talked, um, and just over the last year, you've actually called me and us at some crazy, uh, I don't know, coincidental times where you've had something that you've said that's even just pushed me. So, I mean, yeah, it's to all the men out there, it's huge to just even if it's just an occasional conversation like you and me have, um, over the years, it's just it's huge to have that in your life. So I just wanted to thank you for that too. So
No, man, thank you. I mean, I have benefited from, and I hate to say the word benefited, but I genuinely have benefited from our friendship. And thank you for being there for me. Thank you for taking the time to to kind of share your story. And I know it's not easy too, man. Like I think it's very admirable for you to say, hey, like yeah, my wife and I have struggled, and we've gone to therapy, and we're more people are doing that than want to admit, and it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay. My wife and I have gone through it. We've struggled. We've fought, to remain, together. And it's what we're all going through, man. I needed you to say it. You need me to say things from time to time. And thank you for being, the friend to do so, because
yeah,
we're in this together to some degree. And at the end of the day, these conversations, when they do have them, I don't think it's by accident,
yeah,
but you know, that's just me. So, but well, brother,
yeah,
thank you, man, for taking the time. I know you're busy. I know that you've got time away from work today, and you're taking time out of your day to make this conversation, and even as you said earlier, going to a library to have better internet connection. So, thank you, man, for
yeah,
doing it. I really appreciate it, and excited to kind of see where the conversation goes, and hopefully this turns into something a little bit more, and this can turn into kind of that, maybe that community that you're looking for as well long term. So
Yeah, well, thanks for having me again. It's been great. This has been a great experience. I'm loving the podcast. It's great. It's a good thing. Can't wait to hear more episodes in the future.
Well, if you're willing, I'd love to have you back on. I think this has been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Well, thanks for being here, man. And 31 days. I'll see you in South Dakota.
See you in a month.
All right, brother. We'll see ya.